Welcome to Across the Pond Women's College Basketball. I'm Stacia Whitaker.
And I'm Aubrey Knight.
Well, everybody, we had a great showing at the WNBA draft. There was millions of viewers. I believe it was like 2.45 million viewers. A sold out venue for it in Brooklyn, and so surprisingly, it was the shock of all shocks. Caitlin Clark went to Indiana. But I did like that recently. She said that I'm so happy to be going to Indiana, but she did say about how she grew up as a huge Minnesota Lynx fan because she loves Maya Moore,
Mm.
and she said that she probably should stop saying that.
Yes.
You could still love the team that you grew up loving, but you know who your team is now. But oh well.
Yeah, I saw so many tweets and posts about, "Oh, Indiana, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. You got the first pick. Don't mess it up." I don't think they were going to ever mess that up. I don't think anyone thought that they were going to mess that up. But yeah, not a surprise. Caitlin Clark went number one. Surprised
I
on the salary, but nothing else.
I mean, that was the greatest thing. I had on my Instagram this mom ask her two sons, "How much do you think she's going to be making, in her first 4 years?" Her first son
Mhm.
said 2 million, and then the son in the back, farther in the back of the looked like some kind of SUV with like 3 rows, said 38 million. And then she said, less than 350,000 for 4 years, and he was like, "What?" He's
Yeah.
just so shocked, and I love that little boys were just so shocked about it. But I mean,
Mm.
that's where the W is right now without more proper investment. And
Yeah.
I know they're starting to sell more rights for everything to get more money. And I think it's coming because multiple players have said that they are farther along in their first 25 years than the NBA was in their first 25 years. So I feel like it's gonna start happening here soon. I think in our lives we're gonna see some $1 million contracts. Well, in my life, I've got like a few years on you.
Not that many.
Not that
But
many.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm the WNBA is obviously going in the right direction, and I mean, she's gonna make so much on endorsements. All these players, they're gonna make more money on endorsements. Obviously, we would like for their contracts to be higher, and like you said, I think we're gonna move in that direction. But the biggest thing is we have to get more people to watch it, more endorsements, more money being funded into the league, and I think that's the direction that's definitely turning. And Caitlin Clark has
I
a lot to do with that. So
she really, really does. I think, plug last year, our fearless leader had 2 WNBA podcasts for the Aces and Liberty, because they had quote unquote super teams. And when they met in the finals, it was a very highly watched final series. I wish it
yeah,
could have gone like a little bit better because I'm more on the Liberty side, but it's the viewership continues to increase, and that's where we're going to get more money. And these women do so much for their sports with all of their social media and how much they promote themselves. They already have brands coming out of some people have brands coming out of high school, and it's just insane. And so that's it's going to continue to elevate the sport.
yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's all we can ask for is just more people paying attention to it, and the money will come in. But I think that this year the league is gonna be a fun, games to watch. It's gonna be a lot of good games, a lot of really good players going against each other, and obviously the names that are in this WNBA draft. People are gonna remember these names, and people are gonna want to pay attention to see how they're doing.
Oh, and when you talk about paying attention, Vegas has already changed venues to get more seats when the Fever come to town, and the
Mhm.
Washington Mystics in their very small arena have just changed to play at a 20,000 seat arena when the Fever come to town as well. So already an increase in demand, which is going to be huge. And I always talk about how the Liberty need to open up the upper bowl because they say sellout, but they don't open up the upper bowl. So they need to have everything, every seat available. Um, this year and just see how much more they can sell. Just hey, if you if you
Yeah.
don't if you don't put it out there, then it doesn't seem like it's a thing to be at. When you put it out there, it's like you need to go. And we've witnessed that this past year.
Yeah. I mean, last year or 2 years ago, I went to when Liberty were in the playoffs, and the tickets were maybe $45, and that was the playoffs. This year, I'm going to watch the opening game at the stadium at Barclays Center playing Indiana, and the tickets for nosebleeds were like 130. So it's already moving in the right direction as far as ticket sales. That's for the Liberty, but
Yeah.
you know,
So that's
it's
upper
getting
bowl.
there.
That's right. Go wear some seafoam and go libs and get a picture with Ellie, the best mascot on the planet, who
Yes.
was killing it at the WNBA draft. She's the best. I talk about her all the time. If you do not
So
know who Ellie is for the New York Liberty, it's the greatest mascot ever. She has the best dance moves you will ever see. It's awesome. She's the best. Now, speaking of the Liberty and you being, CU, Colorado all the way, even though she was not drafted, your girl, Jalen Sherrod, got a training camp contract to go play at the Liberty. And we are very biased towards our teams that we love.
yes.
And we'll get to mine, but we got to hit it with yours because we're talking about the Liberty a little bit here. And I am again biased towards the Liberty, but I'm very excited because the Liberty need someone who is quick on defense for the perimeter. And I love that she got an invite because that is something that she can bring more speed and quickness and then defensively. So talk about how much Jay can help and see what do you think? What do you think about this contract training camp?
Yeah.
Are you nervous for her? Are you excited? What is it?
I mean, I'm obviously very excited for her. Jalen always talks about it's will over skill. She's always been, not looked at as much. She's always been told that she was too small to play. No one thought that she was even going to play at a Power 5 school when she was in high school. Then she did that. She proved herself in the Pac 12 in one of the best conferences in the country. And all she needs is a shot. That's all you really need, right? Some of these players who even got drafted first, second, third round, some of them are going to get cut. Doesn't just because you get drafted in this league does not mean that you're going to make a team.
Yep.
So as long as Jalen just gets a shot, she does her best out there, and I think the Liberty can use her. Like you said, she's quick and she has a lot to learn, and she's very willing to learn, and she is a very coachable player. So I think the Liberty did a great job in at least inviting her. And I think that they would be bummed out if they didn't. I would be very bummed out if they didn't put her on the team, put her on the roster. But again, all she needs is a shot. So
It's a
it's
tough
fun.
roster to make. But I
It is.
think they said that the WNBA draft that sometimes the second rounders you find your diamond in the rough because Crystal Dangerfield years ago was rookie of the year and she was like the
Mhm.
19th pick, I believe, in the draft. And I get
Yeah.
to speak with her this summer and at the Dallas and Liberty game. In Dallas, if you have ever felt like you are a normal sized human, um, go watch the Dallas Wings women play and then go kind of get as close as you can to the court and then you realize that you are not a normal sized person. You are a tiny person next to these Amazonian women. They're huge. And then Crystal comes up and you're like, "Oh, I am normal because this is a normal sized human here." And I'm just amazed that she can play with them. And
Mhm.
reminds me of Crystal Dangerfield a lot. And Crystal can make it in the league. And I know she has the UConn pedigree, but I think that's where I think about Jay when it comes to being able to play because Dangerfield has done well, and she was so nice to meet. So I see a Jay Crystal Dangerfield connection there that could do something. So it'd be awesome to see on that end for your teammates. So then you could be like, there's my W girl making a
Yeah.
roster."
Yes, 100%. And then Maya Hollingshed, who played at CU for a while, got drafted last year, or 2 years ago. She got, yeah, 2 years ago. She got invited to go to the Mercury camp. So two of my old teammates in the camps, hopefully they both make it. But again, at least they're getting their shot, and that's all you can really ask for at this point. Give it your shot, do your best, and hope that you make a roster.
Well, and then getting invited to camps means that we're still got an eye on you. You never know on who gets hurt. And then
Yep.
with the league expansion happening soon, it's
Hmm.
always possible there. Australia's got a good league. You have the Asian leagues and European leagues. So there's possibilities to keep playing. And for Chicago, Rebecca Gardner years ago, I think it was like 2 years ago, got pulled over from Europe to come play, and she was like a rookie at like age like 31, and
Yeah.
had a year. Because I remember I was like, "Who is this?" And it's like, "Oh, someone that just kept playing and is still playing in the dub now." So yeah, it just stay relevant, and you can be in it. All right. So now I'm going to just go with KU here, as in one of my players. We're talking about how size, will with the size. You can't teach size. And Tiana Jackson from KU at 6'6" got drafted by the Connecticut Sun. was very excited to see that. KU hasn't had a draftee since 2015, and this kind of come down where you can't teach size. And defensively, I believe she was went between like third and fifth in the country in blocks per game, had over 300 blocks in her career. She got her COVID year after coming up from junior college. And so you have someone that can block shots like her with her enormous wingspan. I'm very curious to see what she could do because it's always good to have a rim protector in the W.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, you can't teach size, and there's a lot of other things you can teach, and I think that's probably why some of these players, not some, obviously they're all really good players, but it's obviously step up in the game. It's the same as when there's high school players that are getting recruited for college. There's a lot of areas in the game that you're not going to be as skilled in because you're not as experienced in that level. But that's what they teach you. That's what they coach. So, that's, I mean, good for UKU. We like to
Yeah,
see that.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy for her, and I'm just happy because that's just another kind of like feather in the cap of KU's
Yeah.
resurgence back from like obscurity to get someone to be drafted. I mean, I feel like Colorado was coming. They came out of it, and you guys are ahead of us in the years. Especially, we're just going to keep bringing up about how when you were there and got to beat Stanford, this year. So these are things that are markers of a program that is on the rise. If you can see that you
Mhm.
could possibly get drafted from it, that is another reason to go to a school. And all these things, they seem small when just like one person got, oh, okay, nope. That's just another marker for your
Yeah.
team. Now, any surprising moments or any favorite moments that you had from the WNBA draft? Because I
I
mean,
mean,
I know what mine is.
I would say when Kate Martin got drafted. I liked watching Kate Martin this entire season, and especially in the tournament. I feel like she stepped up in ways that no one was necessarily expecting her to because everyone's there watching Caitlin, right, the star of the show. But Kate Martin was a glue of that team. And the fact that she was there, she didn't necessarily get the invite, which means that she wasn't guaranteed to get drafted. She was there to support Caitlin and ended up getting drafted and got drafted to the Aces, which is the team that won the championship the last 2 years. It's not a bad team to get drafted to. So
It's
I mean,
just
just
it's
kind
going
of
to be a
see
tough one to get on, but
it
it's a good
is.
team to get drafted to. But you talk about that training camp experience is going to be talk about like resume building. Be like, well, I was in a training camp at the Aces. I was like, even if you're like the last one cut, be like, I was right there with the champs, the 2-time
Yeah,
champs. I love the Kate Martin moment. I was on the phone with my friend. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's happening! Look at
I
her.
know.
Good for her." Because I don't know if I said it on the podcast or if I said it to my friend, but after that LSU game, I was like, her stock in the draft has risen because she just
Yeah,
had such a good game. Her and a falter had such a good game against LSU. And I know everyone's talking about Caitlin and her 9 threes and 41, but Kate Martin was as solid as you could be. And you're not going to get someone too much tougher than her having to play at 6 foot in the post this year because of Iowa's size. So
yeah.
yeah, good on Kate Martin. But I'm going to bring it back to LSU since I said Kate Martin had that game against LSU. I think it may be one of the greatest things when Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese are on the same team now. It's a Chicago Sky. And I don't know if it was Camilla or Angel that said, good luck rebounding against us.
Yep.
Because, and I don't remember. I really do not remember who said it, but I was like, that is a scary rebounding duo. And
Yes.
way to go, Teresa Weatherspoon, for you're going to get some hard nosed people that definitely are fighters. And I mean that, and not in like the bad way. I mean that in like they are going to fight hard to win. Anytime you get players that can rebound like them. So, and Angel said that she'd been playing against Camilla since she was in high school. So it's going to be nice being on the same team. I am really looking forward to seeing them play together. I think that that's going to be a blast.
I agree. I mean, that is a dynamic duo. I would be scared to rebound up against that team, that's for sure. Because those are some of the two best rebounders that were in the league last year. And that's dangerous, both of them on the same team.
It, it's yeah, in Chicago, still in the playoffs last year, but they traded away their best player to Phoenix,
Mhm.
and Kalia Copper, and so it's a definitely rebuilding year for the Sky. But talk about a great rebuild. They traded to make sure that they would get Angel from the Lynx, and they have Cardoso. So I'm ready to see how their guards are gonna do scoring wise on the outside because you have the inside presence, but
Mhm.
um, Camilla and Angel. There needs to be a name for that duo, and I know Angel was talking about how she put up on socials, "I need a new nickname. I'm not the Bayou Barbie anymore. I need something for Chicago." And
Yeah,
someone's
I
like, "You should still be Bayou Barbie." And I was like, because she's from like the DMV, from Maryland, and I was like DMV Queen. I was like the Queen. I was like DMV Queen would work, but it's not as cool as Bayou Barbie. And I'm trying to think like someone put uh, like Angel Sky or something, but I really want to know what her nickname's going to be. But it should be in conjunction with Camilla. Now I'm trying to think of something with
to
Camilla
combine
being
them.
Brazilian. Yeah, Camilla being like Brazil and Bayou or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's gonna happen at some point, and I'm very excited for that. I'm also excited for Cameron Brink and Rakia Jackson to play in LA because I thought LA would make the playoffs last year, and they got NECA's gone, which
Mhm.
uh, I mean, you're losing one of your all time greats to go to Seattle, but talk about rebuilding with Cameron Brink and Rakia Jackson. And also, the Los Angeles Sparks had Jamel Hill and Leslie Jones at their watch party with their team. And if you are a fan of any kind of sports and haven't seen Leslie Jones do commentary on sports, that is just, you're missing out. And Leslie Jones is such a fan. So I love the excitement that they brought even just to their watch party. But who do you think did the best team wise for the W in the draft?
Who do I think did the best?
Yes.
Well, I mean, there were a few teams that had multiple players, but I think I was surprised by USC having two players drafted from their team. That honestly kind of surprised me. Um, right, they had two. Yeah, they had two picks,
Did too.
but
Yeah. Because
I mean,
Mackenzie Forbes is going to the Sparks, so that was great on her to get Mackenzie Forbes to the Sparks, and so
yeah,
she doesn't have to leave LA, and that was just another good job on theirs. And I was trying to think if now you're making me think. I believe Caitlin Davis went to the Liberty um, for on their pick, and it was just yeah
yeah,
two players from US. I think Forbes, after getting most outstanding player in the Pac-12, was a huge up for her, and she had a pretty good tournament because she was number two to Juju, which is tough to do
yeah,
because Juju is such a stud. Caitlin Davis did go as the 35th pick to New York. I was like pretty sure on that
yeah,
one, but
yeah, yeah,
I was happy. I was happy Forbes got picked, and that's one of those where it's like, hey, everybody's paying attention. The game was on ESPN, and Forbes just took it to Stanford. So hey, now you don't have to leave LA. Now you get to play with Cameron Brink. Are you going to
yeah,
make it? We'll see.
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
Warner brings a hard competition, that's for sure.
yeah, and I think the fact that Iowa got two players, I don't think they've
Yeah,
ever had two players drafted in the same draft. I think it's pretty cool. Um, and
and then
yeah, but yeah,
Gonzaga too.
USC, and they can what?
And Gonzaga had two also.
That I am still in shock about Gonzaga getting picks. I, that Texas game was not what I thought was gonna be just a downer. Um, and then Maxwell going as a 13th pick,
Yeah.
and then ESPN had like no footage of this woman ready to go. That's how shocking it was. If
Well,
there's
I
no
don't even think she was
footage,
on the mock drafts. I don't think she was picked
yeah,
on any of the mock drafts. That one, I mean, she's a great player, but it surprised me. I don't even think, and again, like you said, I don't think anyone was ready for that pick, especially that. I mean, first pick, second round. I don't think anyone was expecting that. That's for sure.
I mean, maybe Teresa Weatherspoon knows something that we do not know, but I mean, and I said how I wonder how the guards are going to do because you have Cardoso and Reese down low. So
Yeah,
Maxwell's got a very good shooting percentage, but as the 13th pick, I This is one of those times where I really hope I'm proven wrong, because that would be one of those diamonds in the rough, and I hope that the expertise of the coaches compared to this just fan that has just been sitting there watching for years would actually do something, like, better than what my perspective would be. But Brenna Maxwell, I just think that may have been a wasted pick, especially at 13th. Like you said, first pick of the second round. I just don't think it made sense. But
Yeah, I mean, she played for Utah, so I played against her when she was at Utah, and I mean, she was a tough player to guard. She has a really quick release. I mean, she's a really good shooter, but I just didn't see her. I don't know. I mean, she's a good player. We'll see what they can do, and obviously, the coach sees that she has a lot of potential. So we'll see. But that was probably that the most shocking thing that happened in the draft. I'm like speechless almost from it.
yeah, and then my friend said about how I dog Kitley all the time because I always think that she can be better, despite putting up 23 points and almost 11 rebounds a game. And I know that she's hurt, but girls played for 5 years. Has been the ACC Player of the Year for like 3 of them. Made it to a
Yeah,
Final Four. I mean, despite Virginia Tech choking that last quarter in the Final Four, I'm never going to get
hmm
over that. Um, I She went 24th, and that also shocked me that people didn't want to that people didn't want to take a chance on Kitley, and she just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm like, is she ever gonna get picked? And so I feel like that was disappointing to have someone that had been an All American and put up the numbers that she did with a Final Four go so late in the draft. So, but it's
yeah,
also good for Vegas because if they keep her on for this year and get her healthy next year, she'll have a year to sit and watch and learn that way before she gets healthy again to play. So I think it's a good fit in Vegas because Asia needs more of a break for someone that can shoot, um, and sitting out a year and watching is going to be helpful for Kitley. And so I think it's good that Vegas took her. I just am mad at all the other teams for letting her go so late.
yeah. But I would be interested to see on statistics of not just in the WNBA, but even the NBA, how many teams would draft an injured player, a player that cannot play that season. I
Yeah,
would be surprised if there were very many. So I was glad. Obviously, I think that she should have got drafted earlier because she's obviously an amazing player and proved that in college. But a lot of teams don't want to take the risk of drafting a player who's not going to be able to play that season. And you also don't know how players are going to be after injuries. It changes you regardless, right? You're out an entire year rehabbing, doing all of that. So I'm glad that the Aces took a chance on her because I think that she will come back from this injury and be a great asset for them. But I would be curious to see how many teams, how many people have been drafted when they are hurt and are for sure not able to play that season.
I've got one that I know because of the Liberty, and that would be Niara Sabali. 2 years
Okay.
ago, got
Oh
drafted, and
yes,
they
I
knew she
remember
was going to be
that.
out. And then last year is one other one. It was Stephanie Suarez from Iowa State who got hurt in January, and that was her only year that she played because she played at a lower level and was the National Player of the Year, I believe, in I'm trying to think it was D2 or D3. And then Iowa State had her, and she can shoot, and then she was 6'6" in the post. So there's two other 6'5", 6'6" players that drafted top 5. And I didn't think Kitley was going to go top 5, but I figured that she would be early second round. So, but good on. It's a good spot for her, with Vegas. She can learn. She can learn from
Yeah.
Asia and Becky Hammond. So it's a good spot. Now, switching over to, we already know this, as in we're going back to the transfer portal because we got some news today. We already know where Liz Kitley's former teammate is going. She's following her coach to Kentucky, and Georgia Amore is like one of the highest, you know, highest prospects in the transfer portal. But
hmm
news today, we know where a little blonde one is going. She's going from purple. Haley Van Lith is going purple from LSU to TCU. And Sedona's got another guard. And if Jaden Owens gets healthy again, TCU could be huge next year, but it all depends on health because we know how
Yep.
much that plagued them this year. But at least we know
Yep.
that they're going to show up for open tryouts so they can have a team. They've got Go Horned Frogs. Just keep that ready to go. Be like, hey guys, we're good, but be ready just in case we're not for tryouts so we
Yep.
can play. But I'd be very excited to see Van Lith with Sedona. You got that's an Amore Kitley height differential, and then Jaden Owens getting healthy. So I think this could be good. And we talked before that Mark Campbell, head coach of TCU, I think probably recruited Van Lith when she was in high school because he was an assistant at Oregon and
Yeah.
she was in Washington. So there has to be some kind of connection there that we can see. But yeah, so that's she's switching purples and going to a different conference. So 3 conferences in 3 years. How do you think? How do you think she's going to bounce back this year from the switch?
I hope well. I mean, obviously, this last season, she didn't have the best year that she could have. Like we had talked before, she just needs a team that's gonna she needs a point guard, she needs to play more of the two, and she needs to be able to kind of play her game. So I think TCU could be a good move for her. I guess we'll just have to see, like you said, injuries, a lot of things on that team, but TCU might be a team that we have to look out for this year.
I I'm looking forward to it, and they are going to last year. Kansas played at TCU, which would mean I would think this year, even though we've got an influx of other teams in the Big 12, I would think that they'd be able to come up to Lawrence. So I'd be excited to see her play again. I've seen her play the Final Four and Sweet 16, Elite Eight, but I really want to see her play. I want to see Sedona play. I've met Sedona. I want to see her actually play. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm very excited for TCU. All right, moving on. There are two huge prospects that we do not know where they're going yet. Let's go
Yep.
with the first one again. Kiki Irioffen. She has a no contact on her transfer portal uh, and everything that she's doing. Where do you want to see Kiki go? Where should she go? Where will she actually end up? 3 questions.
I would obviously love for her to go to Colorado because that would be
Yes.
a great get for us. I don't. Where's she from?
She's from California, I believe.
Maybe USC, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
she's
know
from
because
LA.
she's from LA, so maybe she'll want to go back home and play. I don't know. I don't know where she'll end up because it's so hard also to know because a lot of things are happening behind the scenes. Obviously, it all is a matter of like what teams have openings, what teams are even recruiting for certain positions. A lot of things happen that we don't hear about until it's already happened. But I would love to see her at Colorado. I probably wouldn't be surprised if she went back home to USC. Um, that's my best guess on her.
And I don't think she's gonna go to UCLA because Lauren's already there, but yeah, I would like to
Yeah.
see her at USC. If since you have the since you are transferring, I would like to see her at USC and see how the dynamic duo of Kiki and Juju could be. Also, because their names just work very well because they have the same like that 4 letters, Juju, Kiki. Like
Yeah,
there's some kind of there's another duo name in there. Like yeah, so there's
definitely.
another duo name with those two. All right, next one, a player that is transferring that is a big transfer who is from Littleton, Colorado, is leaving from Oregon State is Reagan Beers.
Yeah,
I I am very curious to know where she's going to go, and I literally have no idea. And that may be another one you talk about going home. If Reagan went home, because as we just found out that Aaronette Vonleh is transferring out of Colorado. Hey,
yeah,
you got a player in the middle to fill, and Colorado, it's going to be you're going to be at home. And then because Colorado's joining the Big 12, it's not going to be as far travel wise, even though Colorado's on the edge. But we've got Arizona and Utah, so you still have teams that
mhm,
you've played,
yep,
and with new teams. So I think that this is where I would actually really think that she would be a good fit for Colorado.
I agree. I agree
Yeah,
with that.
I have
Let's see
no
who
idea where
else.
she's going to end up though.
I don't know. It's hard to say because you just don't know. There's a lot of again, like I said, there's a lot of factors that go into why people are transferring and where they want to go. Whether that's be closer to home, different team dynamics, different conferences, things like that. So it's really hard to know unless you know them personally where what's going on in their head and where they're going to end up.
And unlike Kiki, Kiki's got 1 more year. She's junior. Reagan's got 2 more years. So
Yep.
these are also things when it comes to the transfer portal about how good a player can be and how many years that they have. Charlize Ledger Walker from Washington State, she was hurt this year. She's got her last COVID year. She's transferring out of Washington State. That's a good, strong guard, but she
Yeah.
has 1 year left. So, you know, I wonder as a coach, like, how much do you go after a player if you know you're only going to have them for 1 year? That's another thing I think in my head.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
it definitely is changes the dynamic of how, right? Because at that point, you're not developing, you know that you only have them for 1 year, so you're not structuring entire team around them. So, I feel like for someone who only has 1 year, you would wanna go to a program that is more established, not maybe losing as many people. You kinda know where you're gonna end up fitting in into the structure of the program, but it's hard. It's definitely hard to only be at a program for 1 year, so those are some wild cards in there.
And we know that the face of women's college basketball this year has left Iowa. They
Mhm.
have gotten the third leading scorer in Division One this year, Lucy Olson, transferring in from Villanova, a 5'9" guard, and had 23 points a game.
Yeah.
And now she's at Iowa. That's going to be a program that's going to fit really well with another scoring guard. And you have a Falter is still going to be there as someone that's going to be strong and Stolke. So you get another guard in there, and then who knows about recruits going into Iowa. So I really like Lucy Olson going to Iowa and getting
Mhm.
her on a bigger stage and see how much she can score now. Kind of the way that Deja Fair went from Buffalo scoring about 20 over 20 points a game and then went to Syracuse and then got noticed those last 2 years. And Olson only has one more year. But you're going to Iowa. People are going to still go watch Iowa and pay attention to them even if
Yep,
Caitlin's not there, just to see how they bounce back. So good, good, smart fit on Lucy Olson.
I agree. I think that was probably the best fit for her, especially being right behind Clayton Clark and Juju this last year, so she's gonna go right into the spot that Caitlin was in, and like you said, see what she can do, see what she can do on a bigger stage.
We have a couple other ones that are just big ones. We got Tamia Gardner for Oregon State, sophomore. Layla Filia has
Mhm.
got one more year left. That's transferred from Michigan. Deja Kelly's got one more year left from North Carolina. And
Yep.
then Caitlin Chin is, of course, it's an Ivy, so you can come in and you can do a lot in 1 year because the Ivies don't give you five. Talia von Alhoffen from Oregon State, and there's a few other players that are coming down here. I There's a Talia Scott from Arkansas. She was a 5'9" freshman this year and put about 22 points a game for Arkansas in the SEC. That is someone that has 3 years left that no one really talked about. And there was a bunch of good freshmen this year, and we know where we went to. It was Hidalgo and it was Juju. How much could it affect you to have a 5'9" guard for 3 years that in her freshman year put up 22 points a game? How much of an impact player could Talia Scott from Arkansas end up being?
I mean, that is an impressive resume for your freshman year, and having 3 years, you definitely want to focus on a player like that, develop her. She should I think she committed to Auburn, right? Auburn?
Yep,
That's
that
what
is
I have.
correct.
Committed to Auburn,
Yeah.
yeah, so finding a program for her that is gonna be able to develop her and be on a bigger stage, which I think Auburn will do that for her. I don't know much about the program there, but that's a good get. A player that did very well her freshman year and has 3 strong years left. The
Yeah.
sky's the
I
limit
mean,
for her.
and Auburn had 20 wins this year and was dead even in the SEC, which was like 2 games ahead of Arkansas for league
Mhm.
standings. So that it's staying in the conference, but I'm
Yeah,
very interested to see if Talia Scott will stay at Auburn after this next year or 2 years, and we'll see
yeah,
what kind of they do, especially with Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, because I've said about how top to bottom, I think it's a little weak, and Texas and Oklahoma will make it stronger. And
mhm.
I mean, I, I just it's one of those things that I feel is so counterintuitive because the SEC are the past three national champions. Like it makes no sense to me how I still believe that statement to be true, and yet they still have the winners in the country. But that's how I feel. Please
Yeah,
throw out reasons why I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. But I mean, the SEC more than any other conference in the history of NCAA women's Division One basketball has more national titles than any other school. And someone's like, "Oh, they do," and I was like, "Yes, they do. They have 12." And then someone will say, "But UConn has 11." UConn did not play in the same conference each time. And guess what?
I
12
know.
is more than 11. So, yeah,
They've
just
moved
throwing that out
around,
there.
that's Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I feel like the SEC kind of gets thrown under the rug a little bit. I feel like they don't talk about that conference as much. It's not just as notarized as some of the other conferences. I mean, I was in the Pac-12, so all we talked about was the Pac-12, and
Yep.
obviously we thought, and I still did think that the Pac-12 was the best conference in the country. But I mean, the numbers don't lie. So
Yeah.
SEC cannot
I
be
mean,
slept on.
I think it went this year. I think Pac top to bottom was the best. ACC was second, and then you have the argument between when it comes to Power Five, is it the Big Ten or is it the SEC? And that could go either way depending on who you're talking to. And I would
Yeah,
probably give a slight edge to the SEC this year. And then the Big 12 would come in, I think, in fifth behind the Big 10. I think the Big 10 was a little bit better. Um, so, I mean, I'm going to put my conference as the bottom of that. But, you can't just be like, we got the titles. Just, I mean, that's all you got to do is like titles. That's it.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah,
it's so bad because, I mean, that's me wearing my SEC shirt, my Tennessee shirt with Pat, and I'm just dissing this conference. But yeah, as anytime that I can bring up my picture with Pat Summit behind me, if you're just listening to this, I'm gonna do it. And I'm not wearing a Tennessee shirt. I'm wearing a W shirt with my orange today. But yeah, I will bring it up. I'll bring up my Pat Summit picture.
as you should.
I should. I should. I mean, I showed you my Tara one last week, but it had a signature on it. I have not fixed that to put it on socials. But yeah, so many coaches, so many pictures. Right. Well,
Show them
transfer
off.
portals. Yeah, so many pictures. Yeah, I mean, I think I was taking pictures with coaches and walking up to them when I was in my early 20s because I still looked like a 15-year-old and just kind of acting like a 15-year-old. So if I got in trouble, like if I was trespassing or anything, I could just act like I'm underage and that'd be nicer to me. Always do that. Just yep,
Yeah,
just do that. Just
use it to your
baby face your
advantage.
way out of. I know, baby face your way out of getting in trouble.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
all right. So we had the W draft. We're talking about transfer portals. We've got some new
Mhm.
coaches coming up here. I think the biggest one is just Stanford with Tara leaving, and then we'll just see how the rest of the coaches pan out this year and all the
Yeah.
changes. And
Mhm.
looking forward to Tennessee's new coach. See what she can do. Kenny Brooks at Kentucky. How Virginia Tech's going to adapt, and I mean the biggest one is just going to be Stanford. How are we going to do after a legend leaves?
Yeah. I mean, it's
But
big shoes to fill, that's for sure.
oh gosh, yep. And I'm very curious to see how much longer Gino coaches because I have said that I think once Page is gone, I think he's done because he's in his 70s, and I
Yeah.
think that's going to happen. What do you think? When Page is gone, do you think he's gone?
I could see it, or I could see maybe 1 year after Page. I can't imagine him coaching for that much longer. I'd give him, like, 1 to 3 years max.
Yeah, because he's got
I
AZ.
think
If
it
AZ can be healthy in the next 2 years, he'd have her for 2 more years. I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
my guess is he's probably gonna wanna try and win one more national championship, so if that happens this year, then I would probably retire if I was him. If it
Yep.
doesn't happen and he has the people in place to potentially do it the next year, then I could see him staying another year, but I think that's probably what it's gonna end up coming down to.
It's gonna be an interesting one. Legends are starting to leave after 40 years, 40 plus years in the game. Right.
Yeah,
Well, everyone, before we sign this off, we are going to be in and out of your your uh, your brains over the next few months, trying to get some interviews with some people. So keep notifications ready to go when we pop up with an episode. It's going to be, like I said, in and out over the next few months. But if you are in a void for women's basketball, just remember that the Across the Pond Network has not one, not two, but three WNBA podcasts that are one has already started. It is Across the Pond WNBA with James Scott and Michelle Snow. And then there is Across the Pond Aces. You can listen to it, but don't believe anything they say because the Aces aren't going to win this year because the Liberty are. You should know why. Across the Pond Aces with James Scott and Samantha Greenberg. And then you can listen to Across the Pond Liberty, a podcast that I co host with Kirsten Clark. And we will be back in about 2.5 weeks, giving you information about the Liberty and getting ready for the WNBA season with the Liberty. Same thing with the Aces. And like I said, James and Michelle are already have have an episode out on Across the Pond WNBA. It's all good stuff. We love our women's basketball here, so keep us keep us in your thoughts, and hopefully you can enjoy those podcasts. And like I said, we're going to be in and out with interviews with people during the off season and more information about who's going where and more predictions for the 2024-25 season.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely keep those notifications on for when an episode drops.
Yep. Well, let's just say this: Aubrey came in about mid-season through the conference season, so it's been a joy to be able to talk to you and get a Division 1 player to let me know all of the ins and outs that there's no way I would ever know without being able to talk to you. And I mean, it's just going to be more exciting because we get to just challenge each other next year with you being in
Yep.
my conference.
Yep.
Back in Colorado's back in. I'm so happy. And then we can just talk so much more crap. We will try to spread it out to other teams, but you know what we love to do. She loves her Buffs. I love my Hawks and my Cats. But yeah, it's
Yep.
gonna keep coming. But yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you these past few months.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you for inviting me in halfway in the season, and I'm excited to do it next year too. And I mean, it's not over for this year. We'll just try and fill as much information as we can, try and get some interviews with players, maybe some coaches, just things related to college women's basketball. But it's been great to do this, and I'm excited for next season.
I do like that drop in. Things related to women's college basketball. That is not a possibility for a future interview that we are working on currently. So, yep, keep those notifications ready to go. And for Across the Pond Women's College Basketball, I'm Stacia Whitaker.
And I'm Aubrey Knight.